What position battles lay ahead for Chicago Bears players between now and the start of the season? We're going to talk a little bit about that today. We're also going to talk about Tyler Scott, a guy who could be the forgotten player in the Bears wide receiver core, a talented wide receiver core at that, and why he does have an opportunity to really kind of shine in this season with the opportunities that's given to him. And PFF ranks the Chicago Bears as 20th in the NFL, despite some of the position groups that they've ranked highly. We're going to talk about all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, guys. And so I want to start off with position battles for the Chicago Bears. There's a great article over on Bears Wire about this and position battles heading into the season for the Chicago Bears. I want to talk a little bit about that. So one of the position battles that they have listed here is Austin Booker versus DeMarcus Walker. Now, coming in, I think most people expect DeMarcus Walker to win the starting defensive end position opposite Montez Sweat, but Austin Booker does have a chance to make it interesting. Now, DeMarcus Walker, a veteran who's had as many as 7 sacks in this season, but when you look at last season, 3.5 sacks last year for the Chicago Bears. And while Walker, the thing that I think makes this a position battle for that starting edge position, it really comes down to Austin Booker, a player that has not had a whole lot of experience at the college level, despite having some pretty nice stats when you look at the number of snaps that he did play and things like that. DeMarcus Walker is a player that one of his biggest assets for the Chicago Bears is his versatility. The fact that he can play on the inside and outside of either defensive tackle or defensive end. And because of that, if Austin Booker does come in, outside of training camps, comes in, outside of OTAs, comes into training camp and really does show that burst that he showed at the collegiate level, the athleticism that he showed at the collegiate level, and he plays above the experience that he had in college, that there could be a reason to make that DeMarcus Walker's best position may be being that depth piece because of how versatile that he is for the Chicago Bears. Now, the one could have said that this position battle could be listed as Dominique Robinson versus Austin Booker, but I just really, at this point, I don't think that there's any question that Austin Booker is going to be ahead of Dominique Robinson in that depth chart. The question is, something that we've already heard many times before, that Austin Booker is going to be given an opportunity to win a starting position, is that may that be the best thing for the Chicago Bears. Having, yes, an inexperienced defensive end opposite Montez Sweat does not present, the strongest case, right? It is something that you can be concerned about because of that inexperience. While Walker is an NFL veteran, but, while the veteran usually will get the inside edge on that, you got to look at it. There's a reason why the Bears traded for Austin Booker. Now, that does not necessarily mean that they expect him to start right away. He is going to be given an opportunity to try to win that starting position. But I do think that with the versatility that Walker has, the fact that, Eric Washington, on top of everything else, does like to rotate his defensive linemen in there a lot, it's not necessarily a problem with DeMarcus Walker not playing a huge number of snaps. I still think that even if Austin Booker does end up starting, that Walker could end up playing more snaps than Austin Booker. So it's not really necessarily a negative there that you got to really overlook or overplay too much. But the bigger question is what does Booker show at the start of the season, in training camp, things like this before the season starts, to where the Bears may feel comfortable allowing him to be the starter there at that opposite defensive end position. And also, you got to look at it with Montez Sweat. Does Montez Sweat take Booker under his wing and help that development along as well? But then you also have to ask yourself, Javon Dexter will be the starting 3 tech for the Chicago Bears. I think that's already written. And do the Bears feel comfortable starting 2 inexperienced guys in that on that defensive line together? That is another huge question that the Bears have to ask themselves. And it's not one that we've seen Matt Eberflus not necessarily fear doing. I mean, hell, we had a first and a second year player in Tyreek Stevenson and Kyler Gordon out there last season together, and the Bears weren't really, they had Jalen Johnson there and stuff like that, but even having Jaquan Brisker in the secondary, right? A really young secondary the last 2 years. So, I think when it comes down to Matt Eberflus, it's all about production and what he feels is the best combination. And could Javon Dexter and Austin Booker offer a nice 1 year, 2 year man punch to where you're looking at those guys and saying, nah, we feel confident about having these guys out there, playing snaps together. So that is an interesting position battle to watch in a way. And like I said, it's going to come down to whoever they feel the most confidence in. But there's still either player still going to play and get a nice amount of snaps for them just because of the way that Eric Washington likes operating that defensive line. Next up, Braxton Jones and Kieran Amagaje. Now, this is a more interesting one because, per like I talked yesterday, Braxton Jones isn't nearly as bad as what some Chicago Bears fans make him out to be. Now, there is still, even with that being said, there is still a lot of room for development for Braxton Jones and a lot of room for growth for Braxton, right? And he hasn't necessarily shown that, going from his rookie year to his second year in the way that a lot of Bears fans hope for. Kieran, the bigger question with Kieran is, can he stay healthy, right? And is he going to be healthy to start the season? Is he going to be healthy early enough to even get a chance to make this a position battle? And I don't know if the Bears are going to go kind of more the experience there, especially with having a rookie quarterback. While Braxton Jones isn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination and he doesn't handle the bull rush the way that we would want to and things like that, you still have to ask yourself that, with knowing what he is and what he brings and even, wanting to see the continuity there, will Kieran get a chance to win that starting tackle position? But I do think that it is an interesting one to watch with that. The Bears took Kieran because they do believe in him. And because of that, you got to think that they're going to have some faith in him. But, Amagaje told Matt Eberflus that he was going to be a Bear in the future and things like that, that you don't forget those things. And, it comes down to Shane Waldron as well as who he feels confident and who gives him the best look. Kieran, much like we talked about with like a DeMarcus Walker, he can play either the guard or the tackle position. And because of that, maybe as a rookie acclimating to the NFL, you do want to use him as a depth piece so that he can play either position. You can get to take a look at which one you think he does well. I mean, they'll have time in training camp to do that as well. But I tell you what, Braxton Jones, if he does disappoint, and even if he does come into the season start as the starting tackle, that does not mean that he'll stay the starting tackle if he keeps disappointing, if he has the games where he's given up a bunch of penalties or he's given up a bunch of sacks, something like that. So don't overlook Amagaje as maybe being somebody who can eventually start earning that starting position. I don't necessarily expect him to, though, right away, right? I don't expect Kieran to come in and just be the starting tackle right away. But, Braxton Jones, it's his position to lose at that left tackle position. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're looking closely at what he has improved on from the end of last season going into this season before they decide to make a decision on what to do there. And so if Kieran can get healthy, if he can stay healthy, if he can make it interesting, there is enough reason to believe that he could end up as the starting tackle for the Chicago Bears by the end of the season. And we'll see if that's ultimately the right decision. That's the decision that needs to be made. And, the Bears, Braxton, even if Braxton ends up losing a starting position, he's still a player that can still contribute. He is still a player that can also play multiple positions. So, again, in saying that these are position battles, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're at threat to not play any snaps, to not play at all, to not get an opportunity to show what they can bring to the team. All those opportunities are still going to be there ahead of them. It just comes down to who is the guy that the coaching staff trusts to start and to cover the ass of our quarterback, because that is the most important thing, for a tackle and for being, in the NFL is if you're going to be on that offensive line, you got to protect the quarterback, especially when your team has a new, shiny rookie quarterback that they're going to want to keep upright. They're going to want to evaluate. They're going to want to be given the best opportunities. And so if you can bring that for your quarterback, that's going to determine ultimately if you're going to be the starter there. But I do think Kieran Amagaje, Braxton Jones is going to be another interesting position battle to watch. Now, in the article that talked about these position battles, by the way, it is from Ryan Heckman. Make sure you guys go and check him out. He's a solid writer. He also mentioned Tyson Bagent versus Austin Reed. Now, we had it on a live stream back on Sunday in which we talked about it. A lot of Bears fans are worried or whatever. And the thing that I think comes down to it is, how much does Tyson Bagent show, right? Yeah, Tyson Bagent was a Getsy pick, but that doesn't mean that he's still not a solid system quarterback. Now, the system has changed. So that comes down to it as well. The Bears brought in a guy in Austin Reed who was viewed as the top undrafted quarterback in that draft. And so, and they did that again, probably with Tyson Bagent last year. So, in looking at these two guys, they're very similar. Austin Reed over his college career, over 8,000 yards passing, 71 touchdowns, only 22 interceptions. And he comes from a team in Western Kentucky that, is not a stranger to the way that like a Shane Waldron likes to air it out on that offense. So, it comes down to it. Now, we got veteran Brett Ripon in here as well. So, you look at that for what it is. He could be just another camp body where they look at these two other ones. But I think it may come down to who fits the system that Shane Waldron is bringing better. And the other one could end up on the practice squad. It could very well be that Reed ends up on the practice squad as an undrafted rookie and he still stays in the system, especially if Shane Waldron does have some confidence in him. But it'll be interesting to watch that as well. So let me know what you guys think on those position battles. But moving in to the next topic, I want to talk a little bit about Tyler Scott. I've seen the guys' comments, right? A lot of you guys, and you guys know, as the platform trying to be the voice of the fans, your guys' voice is important as well. And tomorrow will be the mailbag day. So if you have thoughts on any of these topics, make sure to send in those voicemails because we'll play those on the mailbag episode. But with that said, is Tyler Scott, is he the forgotten man in all of this? And what is his opportunity to earn himself a role? Is there a role for Tyler Scott? And when you look at like Tyler Scott finishing the year with 168 yards receiving as a rookie, not a lot. He didn't get a whole hell of a lot of opportunities. But then again, what did he do with his opportunities last season is one of the biggest questions in this. Tyler Scott last year averaged 0.65 yards per route ran. And so that's not great by any stretch of the imagination. If you look at the history of late round picks for receivers that had less than 200 yards receiving as a rookie, the names don't really shine out at you. Jalen Naylor, Tyler Johnson, Scott Miller, and Deion Kane, looking at those guys, when you look at it, since 2008, there's only been one rookie drafted late to produce a little as a rookie, but then end up having a great career, and that's Antonio Brown. But Antonio Brown, for example, averaged 2.95 yards per route run, and so it was more about him getting the opportunity, not what he did with the opportunity. Maybe you can make that same conversation for Tyler Scott. And so here's the thing. Tyler Scott is going to be on the roster. I don't think there's any question or worry about Tyler Scott not making the roster. The question is what the role that he's going to be given in, right? Even if you compare him to like a Darnell Mooney, who I think was drafted around a similar area as Tyler Scott, he showed more early on, right? And yeah, he had a little bit more opportunity as well. He was a 5th round pick. Tyler Scott's a 4th round pick. So you got to look at that. At 5'11", 185 pounds, Tyler Scott does not have the size of the other wide receivers, the top 3 that are going to be ahead of him. He's slated to come in with, the players that left. He's slated to come in and to be able to get a role. And as the 4th wide receiver, the thing that Tyler Scott's going to have to do are 3 things that I'm going to lay out here for Tyler Scott to earn a role. Now, I'm not saying that he's going to be used a lot, but he has to first earn a role, and then he has to thrive in that role if he's going to want an opportunity to kind of show things. Now, the Bears having Keenan Allen here, no contract extension is going to be talked about before the end of the season. The Bears may very well move on with DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, and then Tyler Scott could be given his chance as the slot receiver heading into next year, but he's still going to have to show some things this year. And so the things that Tyler Scott is going to have to do is his speed is going to have to be evident right away. In preseason, where a lot of your starters aren't going to be playing a whole hell of a lot of snaps, that's going to get Tyler Scott some opportunities to be out there more than what he's going to be out there in the regular season. Tyler Scott's going to have to show not only the speed, but a ability to make big plays in those opportunities that he's given, especially in preseason, to really give a opportunity in the regular season for the Bears. Now, once you do move on from that, let's say he hits the number 1, right? He hits the number 1. He shows, in preseason and the opportunities that he's given, he shows something. The Bears then feel like, hey, we got to work this guy into the playbook a little bit during the regular season. When he is in there in the regular season, he is going to have to do the most with limited opportunities. He's not going to get a lot of targets. He's just not. When you look at it, you're looking at all 3 in Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze getting more targets than him. And then you got to throw in that as well as Cole Kmet, even Gerald Everett maybe, Swift coming out the backfield. All these guys are very likely to get way more targets than Tyler Scott's going to be able to get. But Tyler has to make the most when he is targeted and use his speed, use what he can bring to try to earn more opportunities that Caleb Williams looks at him and say, hey, he's open. I got to give him the ball. That's what Tyler Scott's going to have to do. And then in that, he averaged per reception last year, 9 yards per reception. That's not a bad average at all with limited opportunities, only 17 receptions. he's going to have to make big plays. The big plays that you make, if you can make big plays and turn some heads, that's going to give you an opportunity to earn a bigger role as well. Tyler Scott, it's really, in some ways, it's in his hands. In some ways, it's not, right? With that said, but he is going to have to stand out in the opportunities that he's given. And if he does, we could be seeing Tyler Scott kind of, really, like, if you can have 4 wide receivers on top of the tight ends that we have able to make big plays for you and for you to trust, that goes a long way, especially in the Shane Waldron offense. Tyler Scott is not going to be given a whole hell of a lot of opportunities. He's going to have to make the most. Only 32 targets and 17 receptions last year. All 17 games played, by the way, in that time. He's probably not going to get many more, even with the Bears probably passing more. 32 targets with what we have now is probably what he's looking at. He's going to have to make the most of it, and we'll see if Tyler Scott is up to that. Now, in yesterday's episode, I talked about how Pro Football Focus seemed to love the Chicago Bears, but when it was time to rank all 32 teams, that love kind of stopped a little bit. PFF ranked the Chicago Bears at number 20 in the NFL, and honestly, when you're looking at a 7-win team, a team that's had a lot of overall in its offensive coaching staff, has a lot of talent on that offensive side of the ball, but we don't know how it's going to play together, I can expect that. I kind of expected the Bears to kind of rank more around 16, 17, to be honest with you. But at 20, I can kind of understand it. A team that won 7 games, has talent on the roster, has the number 1 overall pick, but there's still a lot of doubt around the Chicago Bears, rightfully so. They earned that. When you look at where they ranked in their division as well, the Lions came in as 6th on that list, the Packers 13th, and the Vikings 21. So in their division, the Chicago Bears also, per what PFF ranked, are the 3rd best team in their division. And so we talked a lot. I had a lot at the end of yesterday's show in talking about how the Bears have a lot of talent on paper, but they're going to have to show it. And I think that this ranking is an indication of that. When you look at the position groups and how the Banks ranked high in tackles, high in secondary, high in wide receivers, right? High in quarterback. Caleb Williams coming in pretty respectable on that list as well. When you look at all those things, it shows that there's hope in the roster, but you got to see how it's all going to come together. And I don't think that that's a bad place for the Chicago Bears to be in. A Bears team that has to prove it, I don't think that that's a bad thing at all. So, all the high expectations, all the things right now, when you look at one of the things said in their direct quote, on one hand, the Bears are a team with an ascending defense and a loaded receiving core. On the other hand, they're a team with a rookie gunslinger, a new offensive coordinator, and a bottom 5 trench units on both sides of the ball. Expectations are high, but patience will likely be needed as the Bears try to build a sustainable future. I can't be mad at that quote. As a level-headed Bear fan that tries not to be a homer, that's a fair estimation on the Chicago Bears, right? Until we get a chance to get on the football field and show any differently, right now the Bears have promise, but a lot of doubt. And I talked about yesterday, it's the realization of the potential on this roster that is going to be the most important thing to see, not only in where we can be next season, but where we're projected to be at in the future, is the realization of the potential that we have on the Chicago Bears roster. Tons of potential, but potential ain't one you damn thing. You got to realize that potential. And, this is a ranking that I think is fair. I think that it's fair. I know it's not what Bears fans want to necessarily hear, but here's the thing. Maybe that's what we need to hear. Because this is a Bears team that, yes, we all have high expectations. We do every single year. We should. It's our team. I get it. I understand it. It's there. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, this is still a team that has question marks on its offensive line, that is converting a player in Ryan Bates to being the starting center for the Chicago Bears team, right? So there's things like that there's still tons of questions. Caleb Williams, as talented as he is, and he is extremely, supremely talented and has potential out the wazoo. He has the potential to be damn good. But again, we're talking about that word again, what? Potential. And potential is not something that a lot of people can bet on when you come from a franchise that unfortunately always finds a way to disappoint. And that's where the Chicago Bears are right now. They're a franchise that has up until this point disappointed for a long stretch of time. So it's something to be said about all of that, to where the Bears there's a lot of eyes on the Chicago Bears. We're still waiting to see if the Bears are officially going to be announced as being on the Hard Knocks. I don't know what the NFL is doing. They just need to announce it, pull off the Band-Aid. If we're going to be on Hard Knocks, we're going to be on Hard Knocks. But with that said, it's going to be a difficult season for the Chicago Bears, and it's going to be something that this season ahead is going to be a season of revelations for the Bears in a lot of ways. The revelation. Why can't I talk? Why am I getting tripped up on word like revelation? Why is that the word that's tripping me up? But anyway, that's going to be an important part of the season for Caleb, for the offense, even for people on the defense. Like I just said, Javon Dexter. You know, the Bears put a lot of faith in him by not going out and getting a veteran 3-tech. He has to show that he's going to be able to live up to that. So all these things all coming together. There's reasons for doubt for the Bears, but hopefully the Bears over the course of the season prove those doubters wrong. Let's hope so. Let me know what you guys think as always down below. Make sure you guys are following the show at Shy Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.